Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. You're so far from me, but we're closer than we were a few days ago. So grateful, and to all of you online, which is where I usually am, joining you. So grateful that you're here with us as well. What a beautiful song. Return. You're given love. And in return of the raging storm, God calms the sea. That's the truth. That when we call on God, there's always an answer. There's always a solution to our human challenges. Yes? Remember that I only ask one question all day. So when you nod off, just say yes, and you'll be right with us. So we had a beautiful board retreat yesterday, and we have 2 new board members. And I'm excited for this ministry and our movement forward. And today we're going to do an installation as well for those board members that are continuing on for a year. So our journey, today we're talking about wholeness, destination and journey. That it's a twofold, yes? Yeah, that wholeness is what we're looking for, for the pot of gold, but it's also here and now. And so there's an evolution of consciousness, of awakening to know that we're already whole, but we have a little work to know that, right? Somehow we put little masks on, right, to keep us from really becoming aware of that. I'm just checking my watch because I tend to speak on, and I want to be mindful today. I didn't want you to know that I was leaving soon. I'm not leaving. I'm with you all day. So our journey of awakening continues as an evolution of consciousness, as an evolution of our awareness of our wholeness. And you and I come out of that awareness, right? There's a day where we completely know it. We are one with God, and life is just an amazing adventure. And then there's another day when we completely forget and we begin to, think those thoughts of I'm not enough and I can't do this and there's not enough information or resources and all those thoughts that might come creeping back. So our work is to continue to come back. But wholeness is both our destination and an evolutionary process. Because we're already whole and we're living into that truth. Last week, our beloved Kathy did the transformational story, sharing her journey into awakening, her journey into how this ministry has helped her transform into who and what she is today. So beautiful. And she really hit on something really extraordinary. And that is that we have these 5 basic unity principles. And the first one is, as Reverend Johanna spoke, there's one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the infinite, living, loving presence or essence of God. That's our primary premise. One presence, one God. But our 5th principle, and then there's others, the 5th principle is really getting that I am here to embody these truths, not just know them, not to recite them, not to just go to a class and learn, but to use those principles into demonstrating my divinity. Yes? Yeah, that's when really it comes alive. That's when, wow, we're going, I like these words, but when I wear them, they're so much more enjoyable, right? Because then we're having an experience of those principles coming alive. Just as though, we love God and we speak these beautiful words, but like when you come here on Sunday, we're hoping that you have an experience of God. Yes? An experience of God. That's what we're all yearning to have. And so when we take these principles and use them, then they can alive. And then we really get what they are. So our basic principle is there is one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the living, loving essence of God. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Okay, good. Einstein said it another way several decades ago. He said the most important question to ask yourself is the universe a friendly place? Because this is the premise of your underlying belief system. Same as the one presence and one power. It's not here today, gone tomorrow, right? It's an idea that we continually hold. So that no matter what storm or what's happening to us, we are grounded in that principle. One presence and one power. And so we can ask ourselves, am I living in trust, creativity, and openness? Knowing that truth? Or am I living in suspicion, confinement, and a closed heart to sort of protect myself? And again, we sort of go in and out of that experience. And so at the beginning of the time I've been with you, this June, it's going to be 2 years. Wow. Haven't we grown? All over. Isn't it the COVID, they named it 19, but I'm sure it's 20 pounds. COVID 20, yes. But what we started with was that premise of no one and nothing is against you. Remember the eye of the storm teaching, which is a basic principle, pretty much saying the same thing as there's one presence and one power. And I want to read to you the beginning of that book. It's just a few lines. No one is against you. No one is against you. This is the absolute truth. You may not believe it now, and you may have a lifetime of evidence to the contrary. But until you realize that the entire universe is for you, you may never experience your wholeness and your true worth. The purpose of your life is to awaken to the truth that there is only one presence and one power at work, and that this presence and power lives in you as the Spirit of God. Yes? Yes. And for this reason, no one and nothing can be against you. To realize this is to claim your divine inheritance as a beloved creation of God. I'm done. Right? That's really it. That's our teaching. And so we can go about our life proving that to be true. Or we could go about our life proving it not to be true and having all these reasons why it isn't. So one of the programs and practices that we offer here and many other Unity churches is the art of quantum living. We called it the Q process, and now we're calling it the art of quantum living. And this is about creating a field of infinite possibilities. And this is the groundedness of wholeness, of fully expressing who we've come here to be, of exploring our unique blend of the quantum theory, of scientific research, of universal spiritual principles, of ancient wisdom teaching, all together to help us transform our life. So, Kathy, would you just show our cue card for a second? So, we've been sharing this idea with you, and this is really about quantum living. This is about how we can restrict our life experience and be who we are not, or we can make another choice and notice when we're sort of off kilter. And this is just to help us remember that we can choose that. And we are in embracing our human, so we may express more of our divine, yes? That's all we're doing here. Embracing the human aspect of self that sometimes forget who she is, that may act out in a way that is not conducive to the truth of me, the Christ of me. And the more that I own that, the more I express that, the less it has power over me. Yes? Yeah. And 12 steps, they do that all the time. They're really talking about, owning what's happened in my life, making amends, cleaning it up, so I can be my most authentic self. So when we're not enough, when we're distrusting or grieving or blaming or powerless or fearful, that's who we're not. That's who the world can be against, when we're identified as this person. And it's hard to tell because, when you're swimming in the water, you're going, what water are you talking about, right? So we need mirrors for each other, and we need practices. So the practice is sort of unveiling that. Yes, I'm remembering a moment when I'm identifying as not enough. There's not enough resources. There's not enough time. I'm not enough. All those thoughts that will run in the background. But who we've come to be here is loving. Yes? Don't you just feel that? Yes. Well, we've come here to be in integrity, of course. And we've come here to be unstoppable. And it feels like we're in the beginning part of that again. Churches have cycles, right? And we have gone through a cycle, and we're moving into a more growthful place. So to becoming unstoppable and spirit-led, empowered to be all we've come here to be. And the last one is transformational and ownership. So when we're expressing in that way, we are in our quantum powers. That's our God-given expression here in this community. And when that's happening, love is flowing, life is flowing, there's harmony, there's peace, there's joy, there's creative self-expression, and God can shine. Yes? Yes. God has room. But when we confine it by determining how our life is, we shrink our world into these shadowy thoughts. So the infinite field of possibilities of quantum theory is about letting go of those thought forms and creating a new reality. Isn't that a great idea? That's one of our principles. Yeah. So we want to be with what we're having when life comes from knowing that it leads us to a treasure that we are seeking. Jesus taught us a parable of the hidden treasure. He said, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all that he had, and he bought that field. To go all in on that field, that place, that energy, because you see a real treasure in that field. The field is the true context in which you are having your life. So in this context of one presence, all good, then the field welcomes whatever arises, because love welcomes everything and doesn't push it away. And it says that we can use this life experience to awaken. Yes, we can use our life experiences to awaken and not to feel diminished or to be punished. This is the higher road. We want to grow. We want to mature. We want to allow God to unfold and allow things to work together for good. For those who love God. Yes? Yes. But God needs space. And God can't work in your small container of all of your belief systems that are keeping you trapped in a world that's not working for you, yes? We need to expand that boundary. We need to allow God to be bigger in our lives. And we want to find the truth, or that treasure, as Jesus did, that God lives within us. It's not something far away. It's not something out there. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It is right here and now within us. We would just bless wherever this beautiful ambulances go in and trust and know that the people on the other end are receiving the care that they need. There is support all over when we call it in, yes? Yes. So the Spirit of God is within you. This is our awakening. This is to know that the book you're studying is Discover the Power Within. And sometimes that's a rediscover, right? That's a rediscover the power within. Sometimes we do take that journey outwardly. But God is always calling us back home, no matter what happens. So we are in the way of God when we are not believing that there's one presence and one power. We are in the way of God when we look at our life circumstances that are here to keep us from really being who we are. And we are in the way of God when we are expressing from our shadowy thoughts. God can't work there. There's no space because we have constricted the space. We have defined what our life means. So the infinite field allows us to see more clearly. There's an openness, there's an expansive awareness. So one of my shadowy thoughts is I don't belong, that I'm a misfit. And I discovered that not too terribly long ago, a few years back, and how that showed up is with my brother. And I have chosen the route of unity, New Thought, progressive Christianity, and my upbringing was a very conservative Southern Baptist, and so I was sort of outcasted, sometimes just emotionally, and so I had this sense that I no longer belonged, But even as a young girl, I sort of, when I heard the words, this is not the God of my knowing, so I had that belief early, like I don't belong here, right? Well, the interesting part about that is once we have that belief system, we don't really know we have that belief system. It just sort of lives there uninvited, right? It's not really like we say, oh yeah, I would like to live out that shadowy thought, right? It just happens through life circumstances. But what was so interesting is to sort of see how it played out. And I was beginning to prove that I was right because my brother would sort of stop inviting me to family functions. Right? And I just kept gathering evidence as to why I'm not included and I don't belong. And I finally had a holy sheet moment and did one of my beautiful sheets and had a realization that that's a shadowy thought that I've been living out for quite some time. I'm wondering if that is co-creating my world. Of course it is. We're creating whether we're creating from divine ideas or our shadowy thoughts, right? We can't help that. It's a co-creative environment. So I was attracting this very thought to be a dialogue between my brother and I by continuing to look for it. I kept looking for evidence that that were true. And when I finally let go and I did the worksheet and I created that idea and I threw it back in the quantum field and released it, and create a new story that I belong to my brother. I belong to this family. I belong to this world. And I began to affirm that. And so our conversations, I never had to apologize. I never had to change anything. It was like a miracle. The gates opened up and I was invited in. Because I let go of that thought that I was not included, that I was a misfit. And it had to do with things like my attitude about calling up and saying, hey, I heard there was a party. Tell me more. Instead of sitting at home moping and agreeing with the shadowy thought that I don't belong. Do you get me? This is the co-creation process. So the beautiful part about becoming aware of these thoughts is that we could begin to shine the light of truth on them. And when we shine the light of truth on them, they were never true. It was a made-up story that we created. Then they could just go away. And that's the miracle of how we can continue to be in our quantum powers, our qualities, our God qualities, our Christ itself. So we are an individualized expression of God, yes? We are an individualized expression of God, and we're all unique in our most wonderful ways. So our God qualities, our quantum powers are all different and are unique. But it's all God, yes? And that's so empowering. And when I get to witness you being an expression of your Christ itself, I celebrate. I'm just so excited. Because you give me permission to do the same. And that's a beautiful part about community. Charles and Myrtle Furmore, our co-founders of our unity movement, said this. This was one of their prayers, their affirmations. They said, centered in God, assured by faith, and prospered by divine love, we boldly move forward, committed to our spiritual growth and service of humanity as we build unity together. Yes? That's what we want to do. We're building unity together here and through all of their unity centers. And when we begin to recognize ourselves through our conscious connection to the one presence and one power, that we become aware that we are our awareness itself. We become observer, and as we become the awareness, or we observe ourselves being aware, all of those thought systems begin to float away as a construct of the mind. So that's the awakening process. The more we sit in that field, that quantum field of awakening, the more we embody these truths. Jesus said in Matthew 5, and I'm going to read out of the King James Version, which is the version Jesus used. Somebody's awake here. I'm so glad. So Jesus said, love your enemies. Bless those that curse you. Do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who persecute you. Whew! That is a tall order, folks. Yes? Man, to say that we follow the Christ teachings, man, it takes a lot of effort and prayer and consciousness building. And to see my brother or sister that appears to be against me as a holy one who is reminding me of who I am. Because it's if I become triggered and I begin to lash back if I am being attacked or, is that I'm entering into that same field. So it's like the Aikido, the energy of Aikido is just, if anyone is upset with you or cursing you or projecting, vulgarity at you, it's just to let it go by. It's just to wear an armor of Teflon and not Velcro. Yeah, you see that one? Just let it go. That's not the truth of you. That is their shadow. That is their insufficiency, not able to see who you really are. And so we want to pray for them, that they might awaken to who they are, so they begin to experience a world that is more godlike, yes? Yes. Then we can dance and have a party. So we want to ask our hearts, what is mine to do in the midst of what I'm having right now? If that's a challenge or there's not enough or whatever it is, what is mine to do? How can I use this, God, to glorify you? How can I use this life experience to be more of who I've come here to be and not be diminished by it? Because the God of my knowing wants for my good. Yes? That should be the God of all of our knowing. There's a Course in Miracles quote. I'm not finding it, so I'll just pretend like I know it. What could you not believe? What could you not accept if you but knew that every experience, every event, every person that's brought into your life is sent by God to support your awakening, to support you in knowing the truth of your being, to use even this God to glorify you. Because Jesus said there will be trials and tribulations. But fear not, I have overcome the world being all this external experience. So we need to be on our cards of who we have come here to be, so we can be that Christ itself, so we can be that presence of peace in a world that is conflicted, and to not add more fire to the fuel. So what does the quantum living practice and our compassionate communication, nonviolent communication, do for us? That's our Tuesday night class. So it's really a teaching of the heart. It's really that idea about do good to those who, persecute you, about seeing the good even when you're hearing something to the contrary. It's a practice that helps us to reimagine an enemy and love them, as Jesus taught us, is to shift an enemy image through language, through intention, through connection. And what that does is it opens your own heart to express more, to invite more in. I can't tell you how exciting it is to be with people when we go through a practice, and either one of those, the quantum living or the nonviolent communication, when we get some clarity. There's these wonderful ahas to say, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to see this awareness so that I may love them again, so I may be who I've come here to be and not be diminished by life. We want to live into these teachings. It's not easy. I so get it. I work with this beautiful board, and they're just always going, really, Denise? We got to do this too, and they say yes, because they know they've said yes to a higher calling, as you are. You're in this room or you're listening online that, God has called you into unity, into a progressive Christianity that trusts and know that there is a divine presence in you. And we want to call that out. We want to see more of that expressed in our world. And we want to create an infinite field of possibilities. There's one story I just wanted to share with you about this Mohini, the white tiger, just briefly. And the Mohini was a regal white tiger who lived many years ago in Washington, D.C., and he was given to President Eisenhower in the 1960s. And this white regal tiger lived in a 12 by 12 cell for many years. And finally, they woke up and decided that he needed a much larger garden. He needed a much bigger space for who he was. And so they created, a half an acre or more of a beautiful gardens and a place for him to play in. But it was actually too late. When they released him into that beautiful space, he just stayed in a 12-foot area, because he had created a container that was safe for him. He had created a neural pathway in the brain that said, this is my parameter. This is my world. This is who I am. And that's what we have done when we're living from those limited thoughts about who and what we've come here to be. And so our work is to sort of undo those boundaries, to allow God to be more God through us. Sometimes in life, the unexpected happens. We get hurt, we close down, we retreat. And we also forget the truth. We go into isolation, And we forget the truth of who we really are. And we feel separate from God. We feel alone. Until that moment when we begin to hear the murmurs of the heart. The still small voice that reminds us of who we are. This inward connection to the truth, reclaiming the wisdom and beauty that life lives within. You are the one, it says. You are the one to bring heaven to earth. You are the one to express the Christ of God. You are the one to bring your gifts into manifestation through this ministry. You are the one. You have been chosen, yes? Yes. You have been chosen whether you're online or in this room or listening days later to be the one unto your own unfolding of your own divinity. So imagine a world where nothing and no one is against you. Imagine a world that we get to create and a life where no situation has the power to diminish you. Imagine feeling free of lack and limitation. This is grounded in wholeness. Yes? This is grounded in who and what we've come here to be. This is what God wants for us. He doesn't want us to live in that 12 by 12 cage. She wants us to express more of itself in this now moment, in this embodiment. We're not waiting till the next lifetime. Right? No, it's a yes, God, yes. Love that song. So we are beginning to understand that we are pure awareness and consciousness itself. And when we say there's nothing and no one against me, I'm talking about that essence. The essence of my Christed nature, not this body. This body is a temporary housing for my soul while I'm in this embodiment. It's not who I am. It can affect me, and it sure feels like it sometimes. But Jesus said, "Who do you say that I am?" And that's my question all the time, over and over. Who do you say that I am? Isaiah was commissioned from the Lord. And through Scripture, he says, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And then I said, here I am. Send me. You said that. Before you got in this body, you said, send me. Send me down to earth. I am ready. I'm ready to awaken. I'm ready to be the one. Yes? Yes. That's what we're here for. So let's pray. Let us go into meditation and know that, okay? Take that holy breath. Focusing on the indwelling presence of Spirit. I dwell in the peace of God right here and now. I am breathing, living, loving the essence of this Christ Spirit right here and now. I am open to receive that infinite presence of life. I am open to receive the peace of God. Nothing can stop me from expressing my true nature. I am an individualized expression of the One. I am here as an awakened soul, ready to answer the call, to say yes, and trust that the God of my knowing is here to support my every calling, my every request, my every thought. Thank you, Spirit, for this indwelling peace that is me.